Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be jumping into some pretty fascinating concepts. Sounds like you're working through this business management document, really trying to get a grasp on how businesses work.
Exactly. We're here to help you, extract that valuable knowledge.
All right, so chapter 1 jumps right into the deep end. The why behind business, like its role in society. It's kind of interesting how it connects to like fulfilling needs, almost like, businesses exist to make people's lives better.
It's a cool perspective. The document uses Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that pyramid, to explain this idea. Businesses operate within that framework, striving to meet those needs, from basic survival all the way to, self-actualization.
So, like, I get that a food company's meeting a basic need, but like, what about a luxury car company? That doesn't seem as essential.
That's where it gets interesting. Even luxury goods, they tap into those higher level needs. Esteem, self-actualization. Think about the emotions those brands are trying to evoke. Success, status, a sense of accomplishment.
So based on this document, understanding how businesses, products, and services all tie back to meeting those different levels of needs is really key to understanding this first chapter.
Exactly. And it's not just theory. It then jumps into those 4 key production factors. The ingredients, human resources, capital, natural resources, entrepreneurship. Can't have a business without them.
It's a recipe for success. I really like that example about the truck being both a production factor and an end product.
It really shows how perspective matters. The truck manufacturer, they see it as the finished product.
Right.
But for a logistics company, that same truck, it becomes a tool for delivery, generating revenue.
Whoa. And it doesn't stop there. Free market, socialism, command economies, the document tackles them all. For someone thinking about starting a business, how much do I really need to understand these economic systems?
It's not just theory. It's about how businesses operate. The opportunities, the level of risk you might face as an entrepreneur. Imagine. In a heavily controlled economy, your decisions might be heavily influenced by government regulations, whereas a free market offers more autonomy, but also more competition.
I hadn't thought about it that way. Understanding those nuances is key to making informed choices about where and how to launch a business.
Exactly. And Chapter 1 wraps up by examining different types of institutions. You got businesses focused on satisfying needs, government, and nonprofits. It helps you understand the role each one plays in a society and their unique challenges.
So for someone taking in all this information, a good takeaway would be to consider, which type of institution aligns with their goals and values.
Absolutely. Do you want to create a for-profit business? Meet a market need. Work within the government, shape policy, or contribute to society through a nonprofit.
So many options. All right. Chapter 2 dives into entrepreneurship. And I got to say, this is where I get excited. The stories of those South African entrepreneurs, Dango Motsepe, Wirzika, Rani, so inspiring. It's like they saw a problem and were like, I can fix that.
And they didn't just have great ideas. They had the drive, the knowledge to turn those ideas into successful ventures. The document outlines 6 steps for the entrepreneurial process. It's like a roadmap.
So it's not just about the idea, it's about what you do after.
Right. And 2 key takeaways from this chapter are the importance of a solid business plan and knowing how to manage the venture, once it's up and running. A great idea without a plan is like, well, a car without an engine.
And the document outlines different paths to entrepreneurship. Starting a new venture, buying an existing business, or the franchise route, like opening a Steers.
Each option has its own pros and cons. The chapter really encourages you to look at your goals, your comfort with risk, and your resources.
Okay, so after this chapter, I should be able to identify those key steps involved in starting a business, weigh the pros and cons of different entry points, and get a better sense of, which path aligns with my entrepreneurial style.
Yes. And just as you're getting a handle on these core entrepreneurial concepts, the document introduces the 4th Industrial Revolution, 4IR.
It's like everything we knew about business is being flipped on its head. Technology is changing everything so quickly. But the document shows how entrepreneurs can use these advancements to, solve problems. It's pretty incredible. Like the story of Luvu Yorani and his tech company, Silo Ulutho Technologies.
He saw a need, bridging the digital divide in underserved communities, and used technology to create a solution. That's the 4IR at its best. But the document doesn't just focus on the good, it acknowledges potential downsides too, like job displacement, ethical considerations.
So another takeaway from Chapter 2 is understanding this new landscape, and honestly, it's a bit overwhelming.
It's a complex landscape. But understanding the potential challenges and opportunities is the first step towards navigating it. Think about it. How can you leverage the 4IR to make your business more efficient, reach new customers, or create new products and services?
It's definitely a lot to process, but I'm seeing how all these concepts are connected. I'm guessing this deep dive gets even more insightful as we go on. But first, I need a coffee refill. How about you?
You read my mind. Let's take a short break. We'll come back, refreshed and ready to tackle Chapter 3. All right, so Chapter 3. It really zeroes in on small businesses, which is probably where your entrepreneurial journey might begin.
Yeah, definitely. This is the part I've been really looking forward to. So where do we start?
Well, it breaks down those different classifications of businesses. In South Africa, micro, small and medium enterprises, or SMMEs. Understanding these is really important because they often determine access to funding and support.
Makes sense. I wouldn't want to apply for funding meant for like a tiny business if I'm planning something much bigger.
Exactly. And then the document dives into two really crucial things. For small business success, a solid business idea, and the right location.
Location, location, location.
Yeah.
It's kind of like real estate, but for your entire business. I can already picture myself like brainstorming the perfect spot.
That's exactly what it encourages you to do. Think about where your customers are. Is there foot traffic? What are the costs?
So many things to think about. It's exciting, but also kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that the document doesn't just, sugarcoat things. It also talks about why some small businesses fail.
Oh, absolutely. Understanding the common pitfalls can help you avoid them, It uses statistics from the World Economic Forum's report to highlight those challenges, like access to financing, corruption, skill gaps in the workforce.
It's a reality check. It's better to be prepared.
Definitely. And then once you have your idea, you've got your location. The document takes you through the legal stuff, sole proprietorship, partnership, closed corporation, private company, all that.
Wow, there are so many options. Do I really need to understand all of them?
Well, it's good to be aware of them. The document emphasizes that, as a new entrepreneur, you'll probably be choosing between, like, a sole proprietorship, a partnership, maybe a private company. Each has its own implications for liability, taxation, control.
Okay, that's reassuring. I was getting a bit lost in all the legal jargon. So after this section, I should be able to, pick the legal structure that works best for my goals and my risk tolerance.
Exactly. And then here comes the crucial part, writing a business plan. The document walks you through it, all the key components. And it emphasizes that it's not just a formality, it's your blueprint for success.
I'm seeing how this whole document is like a step-by-step guide.
Yeah.
Here's the idea, here's where you put it, here's how you structure it, and here's how you convince people to invest in it.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of investment, the document wraps up Chapter 3 by exploring different funding options for small businesses, like bank loans, government grants, venture capital, angel investors.
So this chapter basically gives me the knowledge to not only structure my business, but also find the resources to actually get it off the ground.
Exactly. It's about empowering you to make those critical early stage decisions, decisions that will shape your venture.
Okay, feeling more confident already. Now, what about Chapter 4?
Chapter 4 tackles the business environment, and, well, it's always changing, isn't it? The document uses a really good example to show this. The music industry, from vinyl records to streaming services, things change dramatically.
Oh, yeah. I remember my parents had tons of vinyl.
Yeah.
And now I just stream everything. It's amazing how fast technology can disrupt things.
Right. And that's why understanding the business environment is so crucial. It introduces these three kind of sub-environments: micro, market, and macro.
Okay, that sounds a bit complex. Can you break that down?
Of course. Think of it as layers, like layers of influence. The microenvironment, that's the layer closest to your business. It's the stuff you can control directly, like your mission statement, your resources, customer service.
I like that, the things I can actually control. Within my own business, what about the next layer?
The market environment. That's where you start to see the interplay between your business and, external forces. Think about customers, suppliers, competitors, even intermediaries like distributors.
Okay, so it's about understanding those key relationships and how they can impact my business. What about that outermost layer, the macro environment?
That's where those really big forces come in. Technology, economics, social values, political changes. Think about how something like the global oil price can affect businesses, or how demographics influence consumer behavior.
That's a lot to keep up with. How can an entrepreneur, like, even stay on top of all that?
That's where environmental scanning comes in. The document stresses that businesses have to be proactive. They need to be watching these sub-environments to spot those threats and opportunities.
It's like having a radar system for your business.
Exactly. And to help you with this, it introduces some practical tools, SWOT analysis, pestle analysis. They provide a structured way to gather information, make sense of all those complex interactions.
So by the end of Chapter 4, I should be able to pinpoint those key factors influencing my business environment, use tools like SWOT and pestle, and then develop strategies, to adapt.
Absolutely. It's about being aware, being strategic, and being resilient, in a world that's constantly changing.
This is starting to make so much sense. I'm seeing how each chapter builds on the last one, feeling more and more prepared to tackle those real-world challenges. Now, what about Chapter 5? Where does it take us?
Chapter 5 dives into something that's becoming more and more important, corporate social responsibility, or CSR.
Okay, I've heard of CSR, but I'm not sure what it means for someone like me. Just starting out, isn't that more of a big company thing?
It's true that big companies often have more resources for CSR, but the document makes it clear that it's relevant to businesses of all sizes. It's about operating ethically, sustainably, considering your impact on people, on the planet.
So it's not just about making money, it's about making a difference.
Yeah, the document talks about the triple bottom line: people, planet, profit. Finding that balance.
Okay, I see. But honestly, as a small business owner, wouldn't I be more focused on just getting my business off the ground? Can I even afford to think about CSR?
That's a valid point, and the document addresses that.
Yeah.
It argues that CSR isn't just a feel-good thing. It can actually be good for business, even for startups.
Really? How so?
Think about it. Consumers are more aware now. They want to support businesses that align with their values.
So by incorporating CSR, I could actually attract customers, give myself a competitive edge.
Exactly. And it's not just customers. Investors are looking at CSR too. They see it as a sign of, long-term sustainability, responsible leadership.
Okay, now I'm really interested.
The document also highlights some global trends pushing companies towards CSR, the UN Global Compact, the Sustainable Development Goals, the GRI standards. These encourage businesses to be more ethical and sustainable.
So it's not just a local thing, it's a global movement. I can see how CSR could be a smart move, even for small business.
Absolutely. And then it brings it back to the South African context. It talks about things like the King de Veuve report, the JSE Socially Responsible Investment Index. It shows how South Africa is aligning with these global trends.
It's encouraging to see that South Africa is on board with all this.
Definitely. To make CSR more concrete, the document looks at how to integrate it into different parts of your business. Ethical sourcing, fair labor practices, reducing your environmental footprint, even giving back to the community.
So it's about weaving CSR into the DNA of my business, not just treating it as a separate thing.
Right. And by the end of Chapter 5, you should have a good grasp of what CSR means. For businesses of all sizes, you should understand its benefits and be able to find practical ways to incorporate it into your own business model.
This deep dive is really eye-opening. I'm starting to see how a small business can be so much more than just a way to make money. It can be a force for good.
That's a great point. And that leads perfectly into the next chapter. It gets into the heart of management itself.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Chapter 6 focuses on the management process. It really emphasizes that every organization, no matter the size, needs effective management, to achieve its goals. It's the glue that holds it all together.
So if I'm thinking about starting my own business, this is going to be an essential chapter.
Absolutely. The document starts by defining management, highlighting those key elements: planning, organizing, leading, controlling.
Wait, those sound familiar.
They are. Those are the core functions of management. And we'll be diving deep into each one, in the upcoming chapters.
So this chapter is like a preview.
Exactly. And it also talks about the different levels of management: top, middle, lower. Each level has different responsibilities, different decision-making power.
I'm guessing as a small business owner, I'd probably be doing a bit of everything, right?
Yeah.
Like wearing multiple hats, handling tasks at all those levels.
Very likely, especially at the beginning. And to prepare you for that, the document talks about the skills you need to be an effective manager: technical skills, human relations skills, conceptual skills.
So it's not just about knowing your industry. It's about being able to lead people and being able to think strategically.
You got it. And it explores the different roles managers play. It uses Mintzberg's framework, which categorizes those roles as interpersonal, informational, and decisional.
Wow, this is getting pretty in-depth. Understanding all this would be super valuable for anyone in a leadership position.
Absolutely. And to wrap up Chapter 6, the document provides a quick overview of different schools of management thought. It's like a glimpse into how management theories have changed over time.
So after this chapter, I should be able to define management, understand its core functions, different levels, identify the skills needed to be a good manager, and recognize the various roles managers play.
That's a great summary. It's a lot of information, but it lays the groundwork for what's to come. In those next chapters, we'll dive deep into those core functions, starting with planning.
Planning. Sounds like a good place to start. I mean, without a plan, you can't get anywhere, right?
Right. And the document makes it clear that planning is the first and arguably most crucial function. It's like building a house. Without a good foundation, it can all fall apart.
Okay, I'm ready to build that foundation. What can I expect from Chapter 7?
Chapter 7 defines planning as basically setting goals and figuring out how to achieve them. It talks about the importance of information, about your business and the environment, and it stresses that good managers are adaptable. They anticipate change.
So it's not about having a static plan. It's about being flexible, adjusting course when you need to. I can see how that's important in business today.
Absolutely. The document makes a strong case for why planning is so vital. It gives you direction. It keeps everyone on the same page. It helps with resource allocation. It encourages managers to think ahead, develop those contingency plans.
Those are some pretty compelling benefits. But I'm guessing planning isn't always easy.
You're right. It can have some downsides. If it's too rigid, it can stifle creativity. And it can be time-consuming, especially in complex environments.
So it's about finding the right balance. Structure, but also flexibility.
Exactly. To guide you through the planning process, it outlines a 5-step approach. Establishing goals, developing plans, evaluating them, putting the chosen plan into action, monitoring its progress.
That sounds pretty logical, but what kind of goals should I be setting?
Well, the document talks about different types of goals: strategic goals, tactical goals, and operational goals. Strategic goals are the big picture, long-term ones set by top management.
So, like increasing market share or expanding into new markets.
Exactly. Tactical goals are more specific, shorter-term goals that break down those strategic goals into actionable steps.
So if my strategic goal is to increase market share, a tactical goal might be to, launch a marketing campaign or develop a new product line.
Exactly. And operational goals are those day-to-day goals, the ones that guide individual employees and teams. They're very specific, very task-oriented.
Okay, so it's like a hierarchy of goals,
Yeah.
with each level supporting the one above it.
You got it. And to achieve these goals, organizations develop different types of plans. Strategic plans are for those long-term, big-picture roles. Tactical plans are more detailed, outlining specific actions. And operational plans are the most detailed, focusing on those day-to-day activities.
So each type of plan matches up with a specific level of goal setting. I'm starting to see the connections.
That's the beauty of the management process. It's all interconnected. And the document stresses that planning isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. It has to be tailored to the specific organization.
It's all about finding what works best for you.
Exactly. So by the end of Chapter 7, you should be able to define planning, understand why it's important, what the potential downsides are. You should be able to apply that 5-step planning process, know the difference between types of goals, and understand those different types of plans.
Great summary. Chapter 7 really gives you the tools to develop effective plans, plans that will help your business succeed. This is amazing. I feel so much more prepared. Now, what's next?
Chapter 8 focuses on organizing, the second core function of management. It's about taking that plan you've created and putting it into action, making it a well-oiled machine.
Okay, I can see how a great plan wouldn't be very effective if you don't have a structure to implement it.
Exactly. Organizing is about creating a clear structure, defining those roles and responsibilities, allocating resources effectively.
So it's like setting up those systems and processes that support the plan.
Precisely. And the document highlights several reasons why organizing is so important.
I'm curious, what are those reasons?
Well, first, it establishes clear lines of authority. Who's in charge? Who reports to who? It helps eliminate confusion. It makes sure that decisions are made quickly.
So it's about having that clear hierarchy, that chain of command.
Exactly. Second, it improves coordination, communication. When everyone knows their role and how it fits into the bigger picture, things run much smoother.
It minimizes those moments where someone's like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that.
Exactly. And third, organizing makes things more efficient. By grouping similar tasks and activities together, it's about creating those specialized departments or teams so they can focus on their expertise.
Like creating a well-oiled machine where each part has its specific function.
That's a great analogy. And finally, organizing makes it easier to adapt to change. A flexible structure helps businesses respond to new challenges, new opportunities, much faster.
Okay, so it's not about being rigid. It's about building in that flexibility so the business can evolve.
Exactly. And the document dives into the fundamentals, starting with organizational structure.
I'm guessing that's how the different parts of the business, are arranged and connected.
Right. It's like the skeleton of the organization, the framework. And the document highlights different types of structures, each with its own pros and cons.
Oh, there are different types. I'm interested to learn more.
Well, the most common ones are functional, divisional, and matrix. In a functional structure, departments are grouped by their functions, like marketing, finance, operations.
So everyone with similar skills is together.
Exactly. Divisional structures, on the other hand, are grouped by things like product lines, geographical regions, or customer segments.
Okay, so you might have a separate division for, like, each product you sell, or for different regions of the country.
Right. And matrix structures combine elements of both. They're more complex, more flexible.
That one sounds a bit more complicated.
It can be. It's often used in those really large, complex organizations.
So how do I know which structure is right for my business?
The document makes it clear that there's no one right answer. It depends on several factors, the size of your business, the industry, your strategic goals.
It's about finding the structure that fits your specific needs.
Exactly. And once you have your structure in place, the document talks about delegation, assigning responsibility and authority to other employers.
Okay, so that's about empowering your team, letting them make decisions.
Exactly. It's an important skill for any manager. Especially as your business grows. It frees up your time to focus on those bigger picture things, and it also helps your employees grow. It keeps them motivated.
It's a win-win. But I'm guessing there's an art to delegation, right? It's not just about dumping tasks on people.
You're right. It's important to give clear instructions, set expectations, and be supportive.
Okay, so delegation done right is about guidance, about empowerment, not just getting work off your plate.
Exactly. Then the document goes into span of control. How many people a manager can effectively supervise? There's no magic number. It really depends on the situation.
I can imagine. Too many people reporting to one person could be chaotic, but too few. And you might end up micromanaging.
Exactly. It's about balance, making sure there's good supervision and accountability.
Another one of those it depends situations.
All right. And then it gets into centralization versus decentralization. How much decision-making power is concentrated at the top versus spread out throughout the organization.
So a centralized organization would be more top-down, and a decentralized one would give more power to the employees.
Exactly. And the best approach, again, it depends on the organization's culture, its goals.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need that centralized approach for consistency and control. But sometimes decentralization can boost innovation, responsiveness.
It's about choosing what aligns best with your values and your objectives.
Precisely. And the document acknowledges that, no structure is perfect. It encourages you to be flexible, make adjustments as your business changes.
Be adaptable, evolve with the times.
Exactly. And then it introduces a really fascinating concept, the informal organization.
Informal organization. Okay, I'm intrigued. What is that?
It's that network of relationships and communication that exists outside of the formal structure. Think about those water cooler conversations, those friendships that form among employees, the informal ways that information spreads.
Okay, so it's like the human side of the organization, the connections and dynamics that go beyond, like the org chart.
Exactly. And while it can sometimes clash with the formal structure, it can also be really valuable, promoting collaboration, innovation, a sense of community.
So it's something else to consider, something to manage effectively.
Right. And then the document brings in a really interesting South African concept. It links organizing to Ubuntu.
Oh, Ubuntu, the idea of interconnectedness, shared humanity. But how does that relate to organizing?
Well, Ubuntu emphasizes things like community, shared responsibility, collaboration, all essential for a well-functioning organization.
So it's about creating that work environment that reflects those values, a sense of belonging, shared purpose.
Exactly. And that leads us right into Chapter 9, leading, the third core function of management.
Leading. That sounds fascinating. I'm definitely ready to learn more about what it takes to be a good leader.
Chapter 9 is all about inspiring and motivating people, to achieve those goals we've been talking about.
It's like the human side of management, that ability to influence people, to get them working together.
Exactly. And the document starts by looking at leadership itself, and it makes a distinction between leadership and management.
I'm guessing they're not quite the same thing.
You're right. They are closely related, but there is a difference. Management is about planning, organizing, and controlling resources. Leadership is about inspiring, motivating.
So ideally, a good manager needs to be able to do both.
Ideally, yes. The best managers often combine those strong management skills with effective leadership.
So what makes a good leader then?
The document highlights 5 key components: authority, power, responsibility, delegation, and accountability. These are the tools leaders use to influence and guide people.
Okay, let's break those down. Authority is about having that formal position
Right.
within the organization.
Right. It's the right to give orders, tied to a specific role in the hierarchy. Power, on the other hand, is a bit broader. It's the ability to influence others, whether you have that formal authority or not.
So power can come from your expertise, your charisma, even the ability to reward or punish.
Exactly. And responsibility, that's about being accountable for the outcomes of your work and the work of your team.
Okay, so authority is giving directions, power is influence, and responsibility is about accountability.
Exactly. And delegation, remember we talked about that earlier, is about assigning responsibility, authority to lower-level employees.
Empowering your team.
Right. And accountability is holding people responsible for their actions, for the results they achieve.
Okay, those 5 components seem to cover a lot when it comes to leadership.
They do. And the document then explores different leadership theories, starting with trait theory.
That one focuses on the personality of leaders.
Right. It says great leaders are born with certain traits, like intelligence, decisiveness, charisma. But it's been criticized for being too simplistic. There's no one set of traits that guarantees success as a leader.
It makes sense. It's not just about personality, it's about skills and experience, too.
Exactly. That's where behavioral theory comes in. It focuses on the actions, the behaviors. It identifies those leadership styles that lead to positive outcomes.
Okay, so it's about what you do as a leader, not just who you are.
Exactly. And the document looks at different styles: autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire.
Oh, I've heard of those. So an autocratic leader would be very directive, very controlling, and a democratic leader would involve their team in making decisions.
Exactly. And a laissez-faire leader would give their team a lot of freedom.
So which one is the best leadership style?
Well, that's where contingency theory or situational theory comes in. This theory builds on the behavioral theory by saying that the most effective leadership style depends on the situation.
Okay, so there's no one-size-fits-all approach to leadership.
Exactly. You might need to be more directive in a crisis, but more collaborative on a long-term project.
It's about adapting to the specific circumstances.
Precisely. And then the document dives into motivation, the force that drives people to act.
Motivation is key. A team without it won't get very far.
You're right. And the document brings back Maslow's hierarchy of needs, to explain motivation.
Okay, so it's about creating that work environment where people's needs are met at all levels. From basic needs like, fair pay, safe conditions, all the way to those higher level needs like recognition, achievement, opportunities for growth.
Exactly. Employees who feel safe, respected, valued, they're going to be more motivated, more productive.
It makes sense. If you're struggling to meet your basic needs, you're not going to be thinking about achieving company goals.
Exactly. And then the document explores the importance of groups and teams.
Teams are essential nowadays in those collaborative work environments.
You're right. Teams bring people together with different skills, perspectives. That leads to more creative solutions.
But I'm guessing building an effective team isn't as simple as just like putting people in a room together.
You're right. You need clear goals, good communication, a shared purpose for teamwork to really be successful.
So create an environment where everyone feels valued, respected, where they feel empowered to contribute.
Exactly. And that brings us to Chapter 10, the fourth and final function of management: controlling.
Controlling. Okay. That sounds a bit, intimidating. What does that mean?
It's not about being controlling in a bad way. It's about making sure things are going according to plan, making adjustments if needed.
Okay, so it's like the feedback loop. That keeps the organization on track to meet its goals.
Exactly. The document defines controlling as monitoring performance, comparing it to standards, and taking corrective action when you need to.
So if you spot something going off track, you make adjustments to fix it.
Precisely. And the document highlights why controlling is so important.
Why is it so important?
Well, first, it helps make sure the organization is actually achieving its goals. Without those controls in place, organizations can easily get off track, waste resources.
So it's about staying focused, staying on course.
Exactly. Second, controlling helps to improve things, make them more efficient, by spotting those areas where you can improve your processes.
It's about always looking for ways to do things better.
Precisely. Third, controlling helps to catch problems early, before they turn into big disasters.
Like a preventative measure.
Right. And lastly, controlling makes sure the organization is following the rules, all those laws and regulations.
So it's also about risk management, protecting the organization's reputation.
Exactly. The document outlines a 4-step process for controlling: setting performance standards, measuring actual performance, comparing the two, and then taking corrective action.
Okay, it's a pretty systematic way to make sure things are running smoothly.
Yes. And it stresses that controlling isn't just about reacting to problems, it's about being proactive, anticipating those potential issues.
Staying alert, looking for those warning signs.
Precisely. And the document talks about the importance of communication, of feedback, in that whole controlling process.
It's about keeping everyone in the loop, building that culture of accountability.
Exactly. And then it goes into different types of controls: financial, human resource, and physical resource controls.
So you're managing all those different aspects of the business, the money, the people, the physical stuff.
You got it. The document ends this chapter by emphasizing the need for a well-designed controlling system, one that's tailored to your needs, gives you timely information, and promotes accountability.
So after Chapter 10, I should be able to define controlling, understand why it matters, and how to do it. I should know the different types of controls and how to design an effective system.
You've got it. And with that, we've covered all 10 chapters.
Wow, that was quite a journey. We covered so much.
A deep dive indeed.
I'm feeling so much more informed, more prepared, to face those business challenges. I'm seeing how all these concepts connect, how to actually apply them in the real world.
That's fantastic to hear. And remember, this is just the start. The business world is always changing, so keep learning, keep being curious.
I'm definitely inspired to keep exploring all of this.
That's great. And before we wrap up this deep dive, we wanted to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, what is it?
The document has given you a strong foundation, but now it's up to you to build on it. Apply it to your own entrepreneurial journey.
I'm excited for that. I'm ready to take what I've learned and actually put it into practice.
That's great to hear. Remember, the most successful entrepreneurs are the ones who are driven by a purpose, a desire to make a positive impact, and a passion for learning.
I'm ready to make my mark.
That's what we love to hear. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into business management. We hope you found it valuable.
I definitely have. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on our next deep dive into a new and exciting topic.
Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing those boundaries.
Wow, that was a lot. We went through the whole document, broke down every chapter, got those key takeaways.
It was quite the journey. Hopefully, you're feeling better equipped now to handle the complex world of business.
Yeah, definitely feeling more confident. But I'm curious, out of everything we discussed, what would you say are the most important things for someone like me starting out?
That's a good question. Having a clear vision, a purpose, I think that's huge. Why this business? What problem are you solving? What kind of impact do you want to have?
It's about that why, right? Not just the profits, but building something meaningful.
Exactly. And, understanding your audience. Who are you serving? What do they need? What value are you giving them?
Makes sense. It's not just about having a good product or service. It's got to, connect with the people you're trying to reach.
Absolutely. And planning, we can't forget planning. Chapter 7 went into detail, but seriously, it's so important. That plan is your roadmap. Your goals, your strategies, your actions, it keeps you on track.
And it's not about, sticking to that plan no matter what, right?
Yeah.
It's a guide. But you got to be flexible. Adapt when you need to.
Right. Things change all the time. And part of adapting is staying informed, Remember those environments: micro, market, macro.
Oh, yeah. And SWOT and PESTLE for analyzing them.
Exactly. Knowing what's happening, inside and outside your business, that's how you make good decisions. Respond to those challenges. Grab the opportunities.
It's like having your finger on the pulse of the business world.
Yeah. And don't forget about the people. your team, your customers. Relationships, a good work environment, great customer service, those are all key for success.
It's all about those connections.
Absolutely. And then there's the financial side of things. Understanding your money, managing cash flow, getting funding. That's all part of building a business that lasts.
It's like you got to be smart about money, not just creative.
Exactly. And those ethical, sustainable practices, corporate social responsibility, it's not just a trend. It's about doing business in a way that's good for everyone, your business and the world.
I'm really starting to see the big picture now. It's more than just a good idea. It's vision, planning, people skills, the money stuff, being ethical.
It's all connected, a holistic approach to business.
This deep dive has been amazing. I feel like I learned so much.
We're glad to hear that. And remember, this is just the beginning. Keep learning, keep exploring, and never be afraid to ask questions.
Great advice. I'm ready to keep learning, keep growing.
That's the spirit. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us. We hope you found this deep dive helpful.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into something new and exciting. Until then, stay curious and keep those dreams alive.